Do that.
Have
Should
you
be
taken out a break?
fade delay.
There it is.
So that's us right now. Hello, test, test, test. Hello.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Iron County Commission meeting. It's Monday, the 26th day of September, 2022. And we'll start off with a prayer from Karsten Reed, and then we'll have a pledge by Jeannie Bartholomew.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be here today to have the business of this county, and thankful for the blessings we have from living here. I ask thee to bless the commissioners at this time, that they can be blessed with the Spirit, and that they will be blessed with wisdom to make wise decisions and proper decisions. We're thankful for this country, for our Constitution, and for those who serve it. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we get an approval on the minutes, 9/12/2022?
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2022.
Can I have a second?
I'll second, as soon as I can find my microphone.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Can we have a approval of claims?
Yep, I'll move for approval of the claims for payment from September 12th, 2022 to September 25th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will go. I already signed this. Okay, we will go to our reports. Let's go to building and zoning. Terry, first.
Thank you, sir.
Cutting back on the trees.
You what?
I'm saving
Cutting back
trees.
on the tree.
You only get one paper.
Oh, good.
No. Good morning. I'm grateful to be here. I know Commissioner Cousins was aware I was in an accident last Monday. Mike
I
found
know,
out
too.
just a minute ago. But I'm doing good and well and still at work.
Thank
truck-
goodness.
The truck fared well, a whole lot better than the car that ran me over. So we're good to be here. So I've started working with their insurance company. Friday they sent me an email, so I've got to get some stuff to them. So we're in the process of getting that taken care of. Okay, as far as our report, that top box again is just the unincorporated portions of Iron County. It's got comparisons from last year, 2021 to 2022. You'll see the dollar amount. The fees from 2021 was $462,000 almost. Same time this year, we're at $800,000 on fees collected.
Ooh.
The next column, single-family dwellings. 2021, we issued 128 building permits for houses. This year so far is 187 houses issued. So our housing market is
still have
still on the
several more
incline.
months.
So numbers are still good. Our other additions and smaller stuff, they've changed a little bit, but we are seeing more houses being built. Parowan, you'll see in the incorporated Parowan, Bryan Head, Paragoon, Canaryville, that their numbers are up a little bit combined, but not like the county. So if we go to the bottom sections, building permits, if we go to the very bottom line, you'll see our permit totals, and this is as of 1st of September, our numbers are up 79 permits issued more this year than they were last year. Our fees collected more, $362,000 more so far this year than we did last year. And as we go through, you'll see our numbers. Our houses are up 65, additions are down. Accessory buildings, which are sheds, garage, and that type, they're down 4. Our solar, that's up some. And the one big one there is the Appaloosa Solar Farm that they did have a groundbreaking a week ago. And they also have got permits issued on that. We will start inspections on the containment pits for the substation today. So I will be making a site visit there. Then I will start visiting with them Thursday in meetings to go over the outline of inspections, the process that we will want to follow with them throughout that process. But that one is starting work on that Appaloosa Solar. So that is where part of that money is up because of the fees we collected on that. So there's our building side. It is still busy. As you've looked at your agenda, you can see that Reed has the majority of the agenda. We still have a lot of people subdividing and stuff. We've had a lot of people in, a lot of looking at the industrial stuff out west by Iron Springs out in there. So we have a lot of people still looking at businesses and bringing industrial stuff in to the county. So we're up and busy. We ordered the fence last week, so they tell us 4 to 6 weeks, depending on getting the materials in. So hopefully by the middle of October, we can have fence ready for the fairgrounds, and that's up around the
vendor
vendor area.
area.
So hopefully in the next 4 or 5 weeks, we will have fencing in, and then decide how to get that installed. But we've got that. The Newcastle Fire Station. I did a 4-way last Friday, so we are starting sheetrock and insulation on the interior walls so we can do an insulation inspection, so we're well on our way there with that one. Things are coming along. Still trying to work out a few issues with the water and the drainage on there, but hopefully we've got a better plan now that we've got a building in so we know where we're at with that. So that's kind of where we're at. We're still busy.
We still plan to do a little detention basin in there to.
Yes, on that southeast corner, we're looking at doing a retention basin there, dropping as much as we can into there because part of the building will come off and come down that side when we got looking at the roof drainage over Friday. So, yeah, we're going to put a retention basin there. We're going to put a basin between the two buildings to try to take a little bit out there and hold that. But we're going to try to get it graded back over into that southeast corner of that lot.
Did you talk to Susan about the cleaning aspect of the fairgrounds, the building?
Nobody has
Nope.
contacted me
Okay.
about that.
We need to, and maybe she's dealing with a different way, but
Okay.
but we need to
We need to
deal
look
with
at that.
Yeah.
Okay. We did have a meeting this week also with the cleaning company and the public safety building because there has been lots of issues and concerns that's been brought up.
Is
So
it a different one here?
I can't remember. I'll have to look into that
You
contract.
need to have that same conversation with the ones here.
We've talked with them, so hopefully after our discussion with that one, they will do a little bid better on the buildings because we've had concerns in several of the buildings that we have. So Reed and I did talk, and Lester talked a little bit last week, that we may end up having to put it out to rebid. Our concerns there is if we put it out to rebid, the price is going to go up.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got to look at and talk about and see. We figured the public safety people, we had Tom, I want to say Tom from Salt Lake was down for Wayne because Wayne couldn't make it. So Tom come down. They says, let's give him till October, the end of October to see how it does because there was some issues with floors, carpets, and that type of stuff and windows. So we're going to give him till the end of October and see. Then we may have to put it out to bid again for the cleaning in all the buildings because it is a concern. There's issues that's come up.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else?
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
I would stay longer,
Busy.
but I got a busy day, so
Okay.
I'm going to go do some inspections and try to keep them all happy,
Okay.
as happy
very
as
good.
possible. Okay. Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Terry. All right. We will go to the engineer, Richard.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Shirley, sorry, Sharice. I sent you a email that has this report on it just recently. Chanel, I'm sorry.
Jeannie.
Do you want?
Oh, I sent it the wrong. Yeah. All right. My mistake. Confusion. First and foremost, I want to say we welcome Mary Lee to the engineering department, and we thank Jonathan for that.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll put this up if we can. The engineering department's been busy during the last quarter. As you know, we purchased and sold the track hoe. The old track hoe sold. The new one was purchased, and overall we came away with a $102,000 expenditure, which was an incredible deal for a brand new track hoe. The large red truck has been sold, and we actually came away with a $25,000 profit, which was an interesting change of events. So the big red truck did not meet our needs. The engineering department has worked on flood channel clearing and stabilization. We did that work in Parowan. We did the work on Lower Coal Creek. And because of that, I think, because of the efforts of both last year and through this spring, we didn't have any major flooding of any personal properties, and that's been a good thing. We're working on 800 South. I was just out there this morning. We've got that again bermed up so that the neighborhood irrigation systems will stop watering the project. They've got it exposed to dry out along that edge of the sidewalk, and it's moving forward. We hope to have that done by the end of the week, if not this week, next week. Ashdown is trying to fit us in. It's not a big project for them, but the big thing has been keeping it dry enough to work on, which has been a real struggle, because right after we got done in July opening it up, we got a rainstorm for every week for 4 weeks. Then we got a little bit of a dry spell, and we started to have irrigation systems that watered it regularly for us, and on it went. And then we got the last few storms, which again were quite significant and kept it wet. But I think overall the success that we were desiring has been achieved. We've kept that lift station from being submerged down there on that corner, which is a major thing and a byproduct of protecting our property or our infrastructure has been that it's helped the neighborhood above dewater.
So Rich, is the base, when they cut that asphalt back to the manholes, did they have to put more pit run and base, or did it have a good base in those areas?
No, we had to put pit run in.
And that's all done?
That's all done.
Okay.
And we removed the pit run just over the last several days and exposed that side of the sidewalk.
Just to
So
dry
right
out.
now it's exposed for about 1.5 feet below the edge of the curb,
Mhm.
and it's drying. I was able to walk on it this morning, something that in the past has not always been true, sinking either up to at least my ankle, if not up to my, well, I never sunk up to my knee because I withdrew my foot quick enough. But it was
muddy.
pretty wet. In fact, when we poured the concrete on that one southeast corner, just before we poured it, they showed me that it bounced. Literally, you could step on it and get a bounce because it had been so wet. But we feel with 8 inches of concrete and the steel in there, that is not going to be an issue. And it's not a high traffic area because it's right up against the curb, so we went ahead and poured it. Let's see. We're finalized and taken to the Planning Commission the proposals for buildings out on Quichapa, around the lake. We're looking forward to that or being approved so that we can give guidance to contractors and others. But first, we want to have a public meeting with the affected landowners and let them know why, as well as what is affected. We don't think we want to bring that to commission until we hear some public input. We have completed a proposed road ordinance or interference of a road ordinance. Sam was instrumental in that. Reed was very helpful, as well as others. I ran it by the sheriff, and he's good with it. So it mirrors the ordinance that or the law the state of Utah has, which says the interference of a public road can be pursued by law enforcement and by local officials to prevent. And so that ordinance is available. In the next week, we'll be kicking off the Cedar Valley Bypass Access Plan. We sent you all invitations. You probably saw those on a doodle poll. We're going to talk about that access plan on the bypass.
What day is that, Rich? Can you remind me?
You have choices of the 11th, 12th, and 13th.
They finalized that
But you
day?
didn't finalize it yet.
Mary Lee has not. We're
Okay.
still looking at
You'll send an invitation.
respondents. We sent you an invitation to respond to the doodle poll.
It's the 11th?
Yeah,
'cause
I
that's
did that.
the 11th, 12th, and 13th is the Utah One Summit that we're all involved in, so that may not be the best.
Let's talk about that and whether this is a kickoff meeting. This is it is not. Let me ask Kimberly.
Friday might even work, huh? We're done.
Does that conference go through Friday? I have it marked
I
down.
don't think so.
Okay.
Would the
Make it
next week
Thursday.
be better? Because we can move it. We are the.
Yeah, that might be.
We have budget meetings the 19th and 20th that next week, but that's Wednesday, Thursday, but Monday's open for me.
Is Monday open for
Tuesday's
everyone?
open.
The vendor, the engineering firm will change. We're their employer. They're just being accommodating.
Yeah, Monday probably would work.
I've got Monday and Tuesday are both open. That's 17th and 18th for me.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, the 3rd and 4th.
I don't know, are you talking 3rd and 4th or 17th, 8th? Are you kicking it a
17th.
week?
I'm
or
talking.
moving
I'd
up?
kick it out a week,
Oh,
Commissioner.
either
So it would be the following week. It would be those
17th.
days you just said, the
17th, 18th.
17th, 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We'll reassign the doodle poll and
Okay.
put that out.
Okay.
We are getting the emergency funding from NRCS moving forward. Canaraville retention plan is complete. We're just looking for NRCS's approval. We hope to start that in October, and that's the removal of the sediment in that pond. We need to get all the players to sign the MOU that Sam wrote for us, which we appreciate. Memorandum of understanding for perpetual easement to maintain that, and the other NRCS projects that I've received the preliminary plans for all of them, which I won't go through at this time, but looks like there's a lot going on. There constantly is. We appreciate the opportunity to work on the fairgrounds. We love that.
I was going to ask you about the drainage, that drainage cross cut. Have you started
Well,
on?
We have put that out. I've asked Curtis Jr. to do that. It's a pretty minor project. At the same time, we'll put in a drain basin and carry it out of that. What do you?
The horse area. Yeah.
And carry it down past the soccer fields. So as soon as we get 800, which I hope will be done soon, I'll have Curtis come in and start to do the drainage there, as well as I think the county does really well when we get Curtis involved financially, because then we just have an assistant for him to do that kind of work when he needs it, and but all the equipment and stuff is ours, and so we're not hitting the budget with extra costs.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Any questions?
No.
I guess
All
not.
right.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to landfill and roads. Ruth Anderson.
Morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. We can start on the roads. We're still skim patching. Right now, we're actually over here in Parowan Gap doing some patching, and we're working our way toward Burrell. Hopefully the weather cooperates and we're able to get that done. We're also working on 7700 West. Rich got it surveyed, and we're going to go out and look at the alignment on that later today. But hopefully we can get some help with the work crew. We got to move some fences out there, but it's about 3 miles of road that we're going to build and put up.
I hope we have some. The last I heard when we used them on the fair, the inmates are all going home or getting sentenced or whatever, and so we'll have to check with the sheriff and see
Okay.
about that help.
Yeah, I hope so. There's been a little bit of flooding. Most of it's on the exterior parts of the county, up the mountain, out to Maryland's Ranch. Gold Springs is flooded over and over. I don't know what we're going to do with that road, but I got a meeting with Paul, and Paul, what's his name from the BLM?
Briggs. Yeah.
Maybe we can, we found some pits, some closer pits there that we could haul into, but we may even do some, if we can, change some alignment on that road, just because it's,
Just keeps,
Yeah.
it's down in a wash, isn't it?
it just is kind of a wash. But I don't know, I just don't ever remember it raining that much out there.
I know.
Every week that
I
road's
know.
gone
I know.
It's
The
been
4
wiped
mile
out.
washed out, I think, 5 times
this year.
this year.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
unheard of.
Yeah.
But luckily it wasn't around homes. So, but we've had the same thing up the mountain, Canara Mountain.
We'd
So,
been in trouble.
yeah, we've had good rain, and we appreciate it and we love it, and we're glad to get it. But it's caused havoc on some of our exterior dirt roads, the exterior part of our county. Have a few employees out for medical reasons. Our new employees are doing great. So we love them. We're excited to have them. We're working on the budget for 2023, and we have a few in the road department. Vehicle maintenance. We had a big breakdown with the bulldozer, and that was big. I think it was $70,000. So we're going to be over that, and in our fuel too, where fuel just costs more than we thought. That's pretty tough to deal with. Our equipment's all good. We're getting a new blade. Should be here in October, maybe a month from right now.
Who gets that one?
Ben.
Ben.
Ben will, yeah. Oh no, Kobe. Kobe gets it.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, we're gonna move
Well,
Kobe's.
he'll be thrilled.
Yeah. So that's really it we do got some projects we're hoping to get done before the snow flies on Canara Mountain too. I went up to look at that pit that we have up there, the cinder pit. Took Traco up there and exposed to see if there's extra cinders there. There was some, but not what we thought. A lot of it's just dirt underneath them trees. So I'm going to talk to the Watsons and see if that was their ground originally, and maybe we can go up higher. There is some good cinders up higher that we could maintain them roads with. So
Good.
we've got that
Really
call
good.
in and haven't got a call back. Moving on, if you don't have any do you have any questions on roads? Okay, moving on to landfill. So after a year and a half, maybe two, we finally got re-permitted. So that's done. That's a good thing. With that re-permit, we added about 16 million more yards to our ability to put trash in. So, and it's all MSW, so that's household trash, municipal solid waste. So we felt like that was that's a good thing for the whole county, we thought. All our employees are healthy and working hard. Budget wise, same thing. We're working on 2023, but our vehicle maintenance is over there, and so is our fuel. We also had bad issues with our bulldozer out there. I think and a compactor was down. The inspection went well. Doug came down and did a landfill inspection. It was good, and now that we've moved out of the top pit into the bottom solely, so everything's down there. He was supposed to come last week, but he couldn't make it, so maybe this week he's going to come down and just look and make sure everything looks good. Got water samples that we've got to do tomorrow. We build a new road into pit B to make it easier and just better because it's going to be snowing at some point. Our side load, our new garbage truck, I hope it makes it by December. We ordered it a year ago right now, and it's still not here. So it's just, I guess we're not the only ones experiencing things with, it just takes a long time to get here. These next 3 pages are just 2022, 2021, and 2020. Just a snapshot. The very first line up there is the municipal solid waste. It looks like it's down by 1,000 tons, but that's because we had so much come in from the floods last year from Enoch. And so if you take the floods out, we're really up, and you can see the bottom line over there on the right-hand side is up quite a bit. Also, the same, just to our numbers are tracking what Terry's are. Our construction waste is up 4,000 tons to where it was a year ago. So it just doesn't seem like things are slowing down too well there, or too fast, which is okay.
Yeah.
Which is okay. But there's 30,100 people came through so far this year. And if you figure that out, it's about 1 every 4.5 minutes coming into the landfill. So we're staying busy out there. You have any questions? Anything anybody? Okay. Thank you.
Good work, Bruce.
Do you have another
Thanks,
copy
Bruce.
of that printed report?
What's that?
Do you have another copy of that printed? Oh, thank you.
I just gave him.
Got it.
Thank you. We'll keep that for our.
You can have it, but it's not for sale.
I'll pay you top dollar for it.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, let's go to Southwest ATC. Brennan Wood,
Good morning.
one of my relatives, maybe.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, happy to be here. There's more in this report than I'm going to talk about today. So if you're flipping through and you see something that you have a question on it, just please ask me. I'm really excited to talk about what's going on at Southwest Tech and the really good things that are happening. Our Business and Innovation Center is now up and running, and on that second page, it gives you just a couple little numbers. We've had 43 different clients come through that program, and again, we just opened in November was the ribbon cutting, and we have 6 Hive Accelerated Business clients as well. We've already seen companies begin, they have profits, they have product in stores, and so I'm really excited about the success of the Business and Innovation Center. The next page is a report on where our students are coming from, and I'm particular here to really focus on the grant that you provide us for intergenerational poverty and really the success of that program. So this page shows you where students are coming from and what programs they are in. And you can see that 849 students, and those are just Iron County students. And you can see exactly where they're coming from. Obviously, the bulk of those students come from Canyon View and Cedar High School, but you have students from Launch, Parowan High School, and Southwest Education, and the Success Academy as well. And then the programs, it's really split throughout. We have software development, welding essentials. As you can see, welding essentials is a very popular program, as is medical clinical assistant. And then that category where it says high school courses, a lot of that are introductory courses. So your intro to auto, intro to welding, intro to health professions, that's the pipeline into our certificate programs. So a lot of students come and take those intro classes. Just a point of note, in most of the tech colleges around the state do not offer the intro courses. Because of our relationship with the school districts here and the lack of introductory courses at the high schools, we teach those. And it saves the school district a lot of money, so they don't have to have their own welding lab, their own automotive labs. We do that for them. So we've seen a really good increase in the students as part of this intergenerational poverty
I have
initiative.
to say, as the father of a student of yours, I like the continuity of it as well, because you have the pipeline part of it. But I mean, my son's now graduated, and he's still finishing up some of his SWATC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that he's kind of had the same instructors.
Yeah.
He's been doing the welding program.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the next page is just some statistics about technical education in general. And I think that it's really good to point out that students in high school graduate at a much higher level if they're taking career and technical education. They're more engaged. They graduate at a higher rate. They're more excited about school. And so it brings a whole different dynamic to education with our partnership with the school districts. I want to talk a little bit just about growth. So the next page, which is bright blue on purpose, gives our end of year data 21. But if you flip the page, you can see the comparison between the 2 previous years. So our graduates went from 262 to 360. So we had a huge increase in graduates. Our total headcount actually went down by 3. And it's interesting because headcount can mean a lot of different things for a technical program. We also have very short programs, 2, 4, 6 hour short-term training. All of our decrease last year was in short-term training. With COVID and the end of COVID, we did less short-term, but our programs for certificates went up and our high school students went up significantly. This year, we're actually down a little bit, about 4%, and that's primarily due for 2 reasons. Nursing assistant is one of our big programs as well, just for both high school and adults. But because of a COVID requirement, we've seen about an 80% reduction in that program because those students do not want to have the COVID vaccine at this point. And then one of our biggest programs for industry is our Smithfield certificates. And because of what's happening with Smithfield and Beaver County, we expect to be down about 150 headcount just from that one program, which is unfortunate. But as you can see with membership hours, everything looks really good. We're up significantly in that. Our graduation rate has gone up. Last year was 75% and completion rate is 86. And I want to point out the difference between those two numbers. Graduation rate is a legislative number, and they want to see how many students complete 100% and get the certificate, and that's a graduate. For our accrediting body, a completer is a student that starts the program and they gain enough of a skill that they get a job in that industry. So that's 86%. So sometimes people get those little confused and they're like, you told me it was 86 when it was really 75. So there's a legislative number and a accreditation number. Both I think are very important because with the completion rate, we have a lot of our welding students is a good example. They get 70, 80% through the program and employers are polling them saying, you have enough what we need, come work for us. And so we think that our mission is to get people into the workforce. So I think it's a very important distinction between those two numbers. Our custom fit numbers are up as well. And then dual enrollment is page 7. This is a great program. It's really the model for the state. It's actually a model for across the country. I think it's important to point out that over 2,000 students have now taken advantage of that dual enrollment program, and almost $2.8 million of credit have been awarded to students at SUU, and that has not cost them $2.8 million. It's about 1/10 of that is what it cost them at the tech college. And what's really interesting is that 81 of our students have finished certificates and moved on to SUU, and 17 have now graduated from SUU. I think that's a great number, but what I think is for me the best number is the amount of students that are at SUU that have come to the tech college to gain additional skills. That's over 300 SUU students have come over and they've taken welding and they've taken culinary arts. And I just think that's really exciting. It shows that the students are able to move back and forth between both institutions. What I want to end on, probably not the brightest point, but this sheet that's an add-on to the report. When I was here last time, we talked about an audit by the state and what was called fund accounting, where you need to track the fees coming into a program, and those fees that you collect need to stay with that student. So that needs to benefit that student in that particular program. So historically over the years, we've had a general fee for adult students and short-term students that have helped supplement the fees for high school students. We can no longer do that moving forward. And so this shows, and it's a little confusing, but it shows in the far left column the program, the course title, the number of hours, the new fee, and then you'll see the previous fee. Previously, we charged a flat rate of $20, and for $20, they could take as many courses as they could in 1 year. So with the new fund accounting model that we have to follow, just ask that first example. So it went from $20 for that course to $380 for that course, and that's all now raw materials. So this grant that you've provided to us will be very, very it's very beneficial right now, but it will mean even more. And what we're doing is we're making a change, and Paul, this goes back to a little bit of a conversation we've had in the past where it doesn't cover the flat fee. The grant, the fee is charged, and students that need that financial support, they then complete an application for that specific fee for that specific course. It doesn't just cover that flat $20, which it did this year. It forces them to really look at their financial situation and decide if they need financial help, and then they'll fill out an application for this particular grant that you've provided. But if you just go through here, you can see that almost every fee went up. In a couple cases, because of the funding accounting model, the fee actually went down. But in almost every case, it went from 20 to 75, 20 to 115. Our largest is some of our CDL. And if a high school student took a course, it's on this list this year. This is how I developed this course. So it makes it very challenging. But as a point of note as well, if you look at that hour column, I put that on there just so that it's easy to understand. A student normally in a normal year can take 90 hours of a course. If they just take one class period, some students take 2, some take up to 3 or 4, depending if they're a senior, junior, or senior. We have some students that are here that are at the college half of a day, and they're taking 2 or 3 courses. So you can see that it can be potentially very expensive for students to cover raw materials. This is not book fees or testing fees. This is just your raw materials. And as you can see, some courses are just more, have more raw materials than others. Software development and IT, for example, computer courses have a 0 fee. So I just wanted to point out with what's happening moving forward and the support from the county, it will mean that much more to students. We've had students come to us and say the $20 fee is something that is a challenge. And if it's going to jump up a couple $100, it's absolutely a challenge. And if those students are really motivated and they want to take 2 or 3 courses in a year, it could be a lot of sticker shock starting next year. So it will only mean that much more to our students moving forward. And with that, I'd love to answer any of your questions that you may have.
Are you getting a lot of CDL applicants with the new laws that have come out with CDL?
Yeah, we actually just purchased a Class B vehicle, and we're starting up that training as well. We had to go to California. That was the best deal to find one of those. It took us a couple months to actually find one that was in good condition. And CDL actually is our largest waiting list right now to start that.
Isn't it like a 6-week program?
It's a 6-week program, and we have 9 students in a cohort, and our waiting list is almost 30 students right now, just for that program. So we're 3 months out just in our wait list for our programs.
What does it take? So it's just the 6 weeks to graduate from CDL?
It's one of our shortest programs, but right now that is one of the biggest programs in demand. We're going after a Utah Works grant right now. Hopefully we can get another truck and another faculty member to try to catch up with that demand.
Is there other institutions that provide this training? Or?
Almost all the tech schools do. We partner with Snow College, so the Snow College program is in partnership with Southwest Tech. But almost all, except for 6 of the 8 tech colleges offer, as does Snow College and Salt Lake Community College, and every program right now has a wait list, and it's across the state. And a lot of the if you talk to the industry folks, they're worried that it's only getting worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better, because if you look at the retirement age and the average age of the driver, in 5 years it's going to be very, very challenging to find enough truck drivers. So there's a state initiative this funding cycle to get more money for CDL, because every program could use another truck or 2 and another faculty member today. If that was the case, if they could get that funded, it would happen.
We've found that is looking forward with our roads department. We're really concerned about that. And how do you somebody goes into that program, they still have to support their family. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. Where you need to take that full time. So we may set up a program where if they don't have that, we will put them through it, kind of like post with the sheriffs.
Yeah.
And then if they have to work for a certain amount of time, so that they don't have to pay that back. But we're definitely looking at that. So far, we have been able to get CDLs, but as time goes on, I think that's going to be harder and harder, like you said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of really good things going on at the college. We're experiencing growth in our, I think, core areas, the certificate programs. We're going to see short-term start to pick back up. We're already seeing more requests than we did last year. Smithfield will make up for that decrease in headcount over the year. But generally, it feels busier than it has ever felt before. And we do start 2 new programs in January, a paramedic program and a fire academy. And so those programs will also kick off. We'll start later in October, maybe early November, enrolling students for those 2 programs as well.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank
you.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate you guys. Oh, Richard's got something else.
I do.
Okay.
I apologize. The access plan kickoff meeting actually is tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday afternoon. The one I was talking about was the Lower Coal Creek study. It's a 6-hour coordination meeting. I don't think any of you have the time or need to come to that coordination meeting. Since there's so many things on my plate, I just was confused about the two. So I just want you to
tomorrow?
look at your schedule tomorrow afternoon, 1 to
Or
2.
Yeah, 1 to 2 would
I'm
be
good.
I'm good.
And
1 to 2.
Thursday, 10 to 11, or 1 to 2 on Thursday.
Both days, or you're just giving us?
We're just giving options of any of your openings. So if you're open
What was
tomorrow,
your Thursday option again?
10 to 11, or 1 to 2 in the afternoon.
My Thursday 10 to 11
I'm
is
good on
better.
Mm-hmm.
So this will drive us. We'd love to have you at that meeting. I apologize. I'm certainly sure you don't want to come to the Lower Coal Creek 6-hour meeting.
They're having an unveiling of Southwest Heritage Center out at Iron Springs at 11 on Thursday, so that might be tricky getting to that in time if we go 10 to 11.
What is it?
I just got an email this morning, read
Oh,
it.
I didn't get it yet, I guess.
So those are 3 slots that we have.
And so tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow works for me. If
Yeah.
does it
I-
work for you guys?
I
Tomorrow.
can make tomorrow work. I'll have to rearrange, but it's not that big of a deal. At 1, right?
And at 1
Okay.
at the building department
Building department.
conference room.
And what did you call that?
It's the access plan for the Belt Route. We've I'll remind you that we got a $100,000 grant to study access. One of the issues is Iron Springs, where it crosses. The other is Mid Valley Road. Another is Minersville Road. Those are the 3 majors. But we're gonna have we've hired an outside consultant to begin to study what will be a future plan that we can give to developers and landowners of how this Belt Route
Will affect
will
them.
affect them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
At the building department.
At
Just
the building
in your
department,
conference room.
in our conference room, in their conference room. I like to use it too.
I know.
I use it a lot.
Very good.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Richard. Okay, let's go to the commission. Do you want to go first, Paul?
Sure. So Saturday morning they had a really nice program at the cemetery, a memorial for Ed Dare, who passed away in the line of duty exactly 20 years ago. And Dude Benson had contacted me a long time ago about last year and asked about doing something and on site, maybe some memorial. But speaking to Sheriff Carpenter, he thought it might be more appropriate to have it at the cemetery where people could see it and it'd be safer to visit. And so I think that was a good move. But Dale Schlosser spoke, and Jeff Richards was there with the newspaper, and the SU did a flyover. It was a really nice program, and his widow was there, and very well done. The Adams, what's Darren's boy's name? He did that for an Eagle project. He poured the concrete, and they did the block walls for that little memorial area. Hayden did a really nice job on that. Just give him a shout out for that. The other thing, we attended a USAC conference in Bryce Canyon last week. It was really, really well done. One of the best I've been to. They talked about a lot of topics, a lot of really good information. I won't go into the details. I made some notes, but we talked about opioid money settlements, MCOT teams, CJCC board, did a Colorado River presentation, transportation funding for BNC roads, talking about different challenges they have to fund those, and that's just a few of the things we discussed. But it was really well done. Ruby Zinn hosted that and did a wonderful job. The Garfield County Commissioners were very accommodating and welcoming. They're hoping to possibly have that there again next year.
They voted to have it there again. Everybody liked it so much.
That was great.
better
It was
for us.
awesome. Yeah, we loved it.
So, but in the interest of time, that's what I have.
Okay. Mike?
Just a couple of things. My father-in-law passed away 2 weeks ago, but last week was taken up by his memorial services and such. My family and I had such an outpouring from our community as well as Arizona. My father-in-law, Joe Hart, served in the legislature in Arizona for 10 years and then was elected to the state mine inspector, where he served for 15 years. The Governor Ducey down there ordered flags at half-staff last week in his honor. It was really cool. But I just want to first, we just had such an amazing outpouring of support, and it's been really awesome. I want to thank everybody for that. Rich is gone. Rich and George and I went up to Cedar Highlands. There's some concern about land moving up there and the hills sloughing off. We went up there and inspected a home that there were some concerns, and it looks to be not too bad. They're actually in the process of retaining that property, and Rich felt like the damage so far was cosmetic and not anything to really worry about with that specific property, and it looked like they were taking the measures to correct that and to shore up their property. So that's just something that we're going to keep an eye on to make sure that those guys are taken care of. I met with a couple of members from the State Attorney General's office this week, Tracy and Heather, in regards to moving forward with our Children's Justice Center director search. We're coordinating really closely. Chad and I and Jen are coordinating really closely with the Attorney General's office in moving forward with that. We do have some great applicants. I believe we've got interviews next week, so that's in the process. I attended a FEMA/Utah Emergency Management meeting to review new rules that go along with flooding. Some of the new stuff there. Reed was there, George was there, Rich was there. We were really well represented from the county, and those guys will have their heads wrapped around that. I attended the Utah Sheriff's Association conference last, whatever day it was, Thursday, and kind of focused on the mental health and peer support for officers. There's a couple of new programs out there that are pretty cool that I'm going to try and bring back here countywide, not just the sheriff's office, but with all the other agencies in the county. SUU, we participated in some of the inaugural and homecoming activities this last week. I want to congratulate Mindy Benson as the 17th president. I'll look forward to working with her. That's going to be a super easy transition for all of us. We've all got good relationships there to work with SUU continuing on. On the economic development front, we're pretty excited. During the One Utah Summit, the newly formed Inland Port Board is actually going to meet in person here in conjunction with that summit. Danny and I are putting together some stuff with them, including SUU Aviation's going to do a tour of our local infrastructure that's pertinent to that inland port. And we're working on coordinating that now. And then we've coordinating with SUU Aviation with Maria to do some fall color photo shoot type stuff for use with moving forward with tourism. That's it.
That's it. Okay, I'm going to go back right after the last commission meeting. I went to the groundbreaking ceremony of Appaloosa Solar One. It was really great. I put a post on social media about it, and I got kind of beat up about it. And we need to remember this is on private property, and we need to remember that our private property rights are important, and we need to, that's not my favorite thing to do with land either. I'd rather see cows and horses on it, but if somebody wants to do that with their private property, that probably should be something that they are allowed to do. The county benefits from solar. We have a lot. Probably the most solar in Utah is here in Iron County. We really benefit from it. And remember, anything that a company or other people tax base brings into our county is something that us as residents don't have to make up for. So anyway, it's a great company, and they're moving forward on that. On the 19th, I had a Zoom meeting with the Iron County Destination Development Plan stakeholders meeting, and they talked. It was just they're in the developmental part of this program plan, and they talked a lot about the college and a lot about Shakespeare. And I felt like that there should have been more about our Western heritage, the festival, Heritage Festival, our culture. That way, rodeos, our Western way of life should have been more. And when I talked to Maria afterwards, she said, we brought that up a lot, but sometimes it's easier to use, to go the other way. But I think that's important. And she said they would put that into that destination development plan. So I also went to the USAP fall concert, and it was our convention, and it was very good. The visiting with the other commissioners in the other areas is always fun for me, because you get to talk to them about the different things that are happening in the state, and if you have things that challenges that are the same as theirs, and that, so that's always a really good thing. Went to the inauguration of Mindy Benson. We are really thrilled to have her. We didn't know whether we would get a local ever, and she is the first local, and she is the first woman president at our college, and so we were all so thrilled about that. Last Friday night, I was able to attend the Sheriff's Awards banquet. It was wonderful. They gave out awards for different things that people, the different officers had done, but the sheriff had us all, even me, stand up and repeat our oath of office. And it's a great reminder that the Constitution, the Utah and the United States Constitution, is so important in our jobs, and we need to adhere to those. And then he gave out a coin, and these coins have the sheriffs on the one side, and on the back it has the American flag and talks about the Constitution. So I was very impressed, and I wished that more of the department had come. They were a little lacking. They didn't have coverage for the jail, so they tried to get Beaver County, but for some reason they weren't able to, so some of them had to work. But anyway, we sure appreciate our sheriff's department, and Ken Carpenter, our sheriff, does such a great job, and we appreciate him so much. There was one thing I wanted to bring up real quick. at our conference, they had this Utah First Time Home Builder Law Enforcement Grant, and it's a grant that if the sheriffs or corrections folks need, if they're a first-time home buyer. Anyway, I've got that information if they are interested in getting some. It's I think up to $25,000, like for their down payment or that type of thing. It's through the Utah Housing Corporation, so that is a grant that's available for those for the sheriff's department. Okay, it's almost 10 o'clock. Let's take about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to our 10 o'clock meeting. Okay, welcome back to the 10 o'clock meeting, even though we're just a little bit late. We will go to agenda item number 1 for a 10 o'clock meeting. Public hearing, discussion and possible approval of a proposed zone change from agriculture 20 to commercial for approximately 39.5 acres, located at approximately 5561 West, 3600 South, Cedar City, Utah. Reed
Good morning.
Erickson.
This is an interest in changing the zoning from A20 to commercial on 2 lots that are right there in the middle of those 4 lots that are zoned A20. This is located down in the south end of town, just off of the Canaryville interchange. These are the 2 lots right here. As you see, 5700 West Belt Route comes up like this, and there's 3600 South that runs across here. And so those properties, this went to the Planning Commission. Their interest is in subdividing these 2 lots into 4 lots and having them rezoned a commercial. This is commercial down adjacent to it. They've had a lot of interest in more commercial development here, and they believe that there's an interest for 4 10-acre lots. These are 20-acre lots each now, and so they'd each be split. But this is not for the subdivision. This is just for the zone change, because they have some issues with this road that they need to resolve before it can be subdivided. This is one of those roads similar, you'll recall, just a little further down here on this, on 4000 South, here a month or 2 ago, we had a subdivision that was similar to this, where they wanted to subdivide into 20-acre lots. We thought the road was part of the county road infrastructure because they're platted on the ownership maps. They're mapped as county roads, but they're not dedicated to the county. They were retained by the original developer. And so until they resolve that we can't go forward with the subdivision, but we can do the zone change. And so this public hearing and this action today is simply to request this 40 acres to be rezoned to commercial, which is adjacent to and has good access off of 5700 and 3600 South. So that will be improved, paved at the time that they do the subdivision. The improvements.
Is there a reason why they didn't do those other 2? They're just doing the 2.
They only own those 2.
Oh, they only own somebody else owns
Someone
those
else
others.
owns the other properties.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they just own these 2 properties right
Okay.
here. It has just showing access here. There is a private well on the property currently, and it can serve for small commercial developments. It wouldn't be able to do a hotel or something like that. They would have to do additional water at the time that they do that. Typically, those properties to the south, you'll recall having recently subdivided those for the same thing, where we're not doing the improvements again with the subdivision, because this isn't the subdivision, but with the zoning, it has the potential. We're looking at feasibility here for all of that. So there is water there. They're large enough to have septic. They can take care of fire flow through building permits and the WUI code, good transportation. They can take care of drainage, power, communications are right there in the area. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval for the rezone on this property.
Okay. Chair will open a public hearing on agenda item number 1, if anyone would like to speak on that. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Turn it back to Reed.
This is the list of considerations that we evaluate during feasibility for zoning. You recognize this list from all of the rezones that we do, simply to give opportunity to comment on any of those things that you may have concerns about or that may come up through the public process. None has. No concerns were raised over these properties being rezoned, other than from one neighbor, but it was to do with the subdivision and the road improvement again, and that will be resolved with the subdivision itself. So. Otherwise, it meets the requirements of feasibility, or the considerations have all been discussed with staff and the Planning Commission, and felt like that it is feasible to do commercial development on those properties.
guess we can ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve the proposed zone change from agriculture 20 acres A20 to commercial for approximately 39.5 acres within the description in the agenda, which is located at approximately 5561 West, 3600 South, Cedar City.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go to number 2, public hearing, discussion and possible approval of proposed zone change from agriculture 20 to residential 1 acre and industrial to light industrial and industrial approximately 820.90 acres, and it is located approximately 1800 North Iron Springs Road, Cedar City, Utah. Reed.
Yes, again, this is a property that is anticipating development. They have, we have on the Planning Commission agenda coming up a further discussion on the subdivision of the property, but they want to rezone it first. The proposal here for this property is that the Iron Springs Road runs along the west and south side of the property right here. So the frontage along Iron Springs Road would be rezoned to light industrial. The stuff that's behind that and along the rail right here would be zoned to industrial. So we have just a little bit of sliver. Let me just show you. I know I had a zoning map here. This shows the property from an aerial. You can see that it's undeveloped. There is a couple of houses down on this end right here. You can see the Bridle Path subdivision and the Buena Vista subdivision out here. Other phases. Again, the division between the light industrial and the industrial. So there's just a little bit of industrial right here that will go to light industrial. This R1 will go to light industrial, and the A20 will go somewhat light industrial, but then industrial along the back side of this. So we have a development plan for the whole property. This property situated here has good access. Here's the new belt route alignment. You can see that they'll have good transportation corridors all the way around the property with the rail running right along the north and east side of the property right here. The properties for feasibility, it is run through a couple of the things here. As you can see by the zoning map, this property is zoned with industrial around the north side of it and on the west side. There is residential across the street, and the developer recognized, and we appreciate their interest in looking at light industrial along the highway here. We've got the Iron Springs Road is a good road to use as a buffer between the light industrial and the residential, and then put the heavier industrial along the back, which is along the rail and adjacent to this other industrial property. It is in line with the city's future land use plan. This is Cedar City comes out to this point, and they have for the Port 15 industrial park, and this would be a good fit and a neighbor to that, and good access here with Belt Route and the Iron Springs Road with the rail, and it seems like a good use of the property. As we talked about feasibility, it has the same considerations that we looked at in terms of having water. They have water through the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District. They have they're going to be tying in, and they're already working with them to bring their water in, and so they'll have fire flow. And 820 acres is a lot of property to develop as industrial and light industrial, but they'll phase that, and we're looking at the first phase in trying to break that up and provide access out onto Iron Springs Road and circulation for the property, so that as they add, it'll all be a good phase project. We have sewer. One of the nice things about this project is that they are bringing sewer on the 2400, I should be said 2400 north line to 4500 west. So they'll be bringing the sewer in from, this is right along the north side of the property right here at 2400 North. They'll bring that sewer right through here. You can see the solar farm right here, left a 100-foot corridor. There is a little piece of the sewer line in the ground here, but the preservation was made to run that over to 4500 West. So they'll be bringing this whole development onto the sewer and then pumping it. They'll have to pump it because it's lower down here, but they can pump that in back into the sewer. So that's a great thing for that area, and developing that area and being able to put it all on sewer instead of increasing septic and out in that area. So we're excited about the project. We do have a representative here, and if you have any questions, I'm sure Brian will be able to answer those. And otherwise, I think that's enough of an introduction to have a public hearing.
Okay, the chair will open the public hearing on agenda item number 2. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and have Reed come back up.
Again, feasibility, all of the things we've reviewed. I think it's certainly feasible to have an industrial and light industrial developments in that. They're looking at, 8 to 12 acre lots, these first few phases to do, that size of development. But they'll kind of do a variety so they can get a good feel for what the interest might be and how large the properties would be. And so as they divide those up in phases, we'll be able to do some lot line adjustments, create some lots, and then they can move them around according to what the needs are. The development in industrial and commercial is a tricky business to do in advance of knowing what project's going to be there. And so we try to build in some flexibility in making sure the services are there, but creating the exact lot size doesn't really come until you've got a project and you know exactly where it is. And sometimes getting the improvements in advance is a challenge as well in terms of, accesses and exactly where they will be on the property. So like in commercial on the previous project, curb, gutter, and sidewalk is a requirement in commercial, but it's hard to know where the access is and where to put that until, so some of those in subdivision we actually defer, but they're available and they can be put in, and so those are the things we look at zoning. And that's what we're doing at this level is the zoning.
Good. Does Brian have anything that you'd like to add?
He's excited.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's have a motion, I guess.
I'd move for approval of a zone change from agriculture 20 to residential 1 acre R1 and industrial I, to light industrial, light in LI and industrial, approximately 820.90 acres within the legal description as mentioned in the agenda. It's located at approximately 1800 North Iron Springs Road, Cedar City, Utah.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go to the next, number 3. Public hearing, discussion and possible approval of proposed minor subdivision, Randall S. Wong, minor subdivision, 2 lots, approximately 49.50 acres. Description there, and located near 3400 South, 7700 West, Cedar City.
Yeah, if you look at the vicinity map, this is located just out west of Quichapa off of 7700 West. The property is currently zoned A20, and so there's no reason to rezone the property. It was a long, skinny 50-acre piece approximately. We've recently rezoned and developed 20-acre subdivision here, which is RA20 and RA20 around it. But because they can subdivide up to 2 lots in A20 or up to 3 lots without having to rezone to RA20. They didn't have an interest in rezoning the property. So it just all fits. It's a very simple one. They have drilled a well. The water will be provided by the well. There's no They're a ways from the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District is serving the subdivision across the street. They're looking at bringing water over and using their well for irrigation if it comes to that, but they right now have got a well that can serve those two, and they would have to run the water line quite a ways for them to get the water from that. So they're, for the 2-lot subdivision, they'll just provide it for the well, out of the well. Everything else is good. They have adequate and have done septic feasibility. They are off the grid right now, but power is just down the road, and they're looking at bringing power into the property as well. A20, as you'll recall, is the only zone that we do subdivisions that are off grid. It doesn't require them to have power, so they can do it off grid, but they plan to bring power into the subdivision as well at some point. So I think it's pretty simple, straightforward. The Planning Commission did recommend approval for this subdivision as well.
Chair opens the public hearing on number 3, agenda item. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
Considerations for a minor subdivision, of course, are all of the things that we've talked about. This does front on a county improved road. They have dedicated the additional width on their side, and to make the chip seal improvement there that's planned for the future. I won't say when, but it's soon.
It
right?
might be sooner than later.
Yeah.
They're working on it.
So there is no required improvement as part of the subdivision. That's why it qualifies as a minor subdivision. We've talked about the water, the sewer. There's no trails or open space, fire protection, and all of those things have been addressed. So there are no variations required. All of the improvements that are required in A20 will be provided through the subdivision.
Okay, I'll call for a motion.
I'll move for approval of the Randall S. Wong minor subdivision, which is 2 lots, approximately 49.5 acres. Within the south, 50 acres of Lot 3 and 4, Section 4. The description is noted in the agenda, and that address is 3400 South, 7700 West, Cedar City, Utah.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move to number 4, public hearing, discussion and possible approval of a proposed zone ordinance amendment, ordinance 2022-5 Iron County Code, and then we'll have Reed describe that to us.
Thank you. This is an attempt to do a cleanup on several ordinance sections in the code that needed to be updated and clarified. They fall into 3 primary categories. One deals with the lots that are smaller than 20 acres in the A20 zone, essentially smaller than 18 acres, because 18 acres is what's allowed in an A20 zone if part of that road is part of the lot is encompassed by the road. And so it allows for an 18-acre lot. What happens when we have less than 18 acres is that it's a non-conforming lot in the A20 zone. We've had a lot of confusion in terms of what uses could be allowed in that on lots that are smaller than that. There's a provision in the code that allows for a single-family residence to be constructed on a legal lot of record of any size in any zone if it's smaller than what the zone requires. But in the past, the code, we made an amendment a couple of years ago that allows for uses that occur and they have at least 5 acres. Then they can do the uses that are allowed in A20 with a conditional use permit. If it's a permitted use in the A20, but they don't have 18 acres or more, then they have to get a conditional use permit for that use. Part of the challenge was, then what about some of the uses that, like a guest house in A20, and some of the other uses that are based off of other categories in other zones that allow for that. So if they have less than 5 acres, we're telling them that they can't do anything in that A20 zone other than have a house. But yet there are things allowed in R1 half and R1 that could be allowed in that A20, but they're prohibited if they don't have at least 5 acres. So what this attempts to do is clarify that and allows them to have the uses that a smaller zone would have, like guest houses as an example. In the A20 zone, they can have 3 guest houses. But if they don't have at least 5 acres, prior to this amendment, they couldn't have a guest house. They could only have one single family. But we allow a guest house in R1 and R1/2 and R2 and R5. So we're saying here that if they have a use that they're interested in that is allowed in the zone similar to the acreage that they have, they would be allowed to do that through review through an administrative land use permit or as permitted depending on how it is in that zone. So if it's a use that's allowed in that zone is permitted, they would be allowed. For a guest house, for example, as an administrative land use, they would be allowed to have a guest house if they only had 2 acres in an A20 through an administrative land use permit, just like it would in R2. If they had 2 acres or R1. So that's what this is attempting to do, is to clarify and make those provisions. That's one thing. The second thing that it does, there's really 3 areas as identified here. The general requirements and the site development standards, table of uses, and dealing with accessory dwellings. So the second item that this is attempting to do, and really the beginning of this ordinance change, was a request to modify our ordinances, our zoning ordinance, to allow warehouses in the A20 zone. Currently, they're not allowed in the A20 zone. They're only allowed in the light industrial and in the industrial zone. And our definition of warehouse is pretty broad, and we felt like that there are opportunities in the A20 zone where a warehouse might be appropriate because we allow a lot of other things in A20 that will have less impact than would have more impact than what a warehouse would have. And so through conditional use review, we felt that it would be appropriate, and we had someone who wanted to do a warehouse and in the A20 zone, but we didn't really feel like it was appropriate to rezone it to industrial or light industrial because it fit better in the A20 zone. So as staff has reviewed that and with Planning Commission's recommendation, this is coming to you to change that zoning to allow a warehouse in the A20 zone with a conditional use permit. The third category of change here deals with the accessory dwelling units. Since we did the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, we've had some concern about how people become aware of the state requirement in the fact that they have to live in one of the homes. So as required by state law, you have to allow an accessory dwelling unit in a single-family residential structure if it's within the structure, what they call in the footprint of the existing building. We actually said we can actually do an accessory dwelling unit if it's an addition as well, up to 800 square feet, but it has to be owner occupied. So this ordinance simply added the language. So I'll jump to that first. Let's see. That we just added this language that they would sign and record an acknowledgement stating that the owner of record understands the requirement and will establish one of the 2 dwelling units associated with the ADU as their primary dwelling. So that then it's recorded on the property. If we do it through the building permit, then no one knows that going forward. So this is simply like an acknowledgement that we sign if they're going to haul water or some of the other things that we have. If they're building in an industrial or in an agricultural zone, they have to sign an acknowledgement saying that they recognize that it's an accessory use in that zone and that there could be other impacts. And so we've got a couple of different things where they have to sign an acknowledgement. This is similar. We would provide it. They could sign it and saying, yes, I understand that. And then it's recorded on the property. So going forward, the next owner who buys that home knows they have to live in that as an accessory, because that's not just our requirement, that's a state law requirement. So That's what this provision is for.
So recorded in the recorder's office.
Recorded in the county recorder's office. So those are the three changes. They're made in 4 different sections, just because we had one section when we'd made the change previously, when we'd changed it from 10 to 5 acres, that didn't get made because it's in a different section of the code. We wanted to just clarify that, and then the language to develop to help with the smaller than zone lots. And then here, this is on the table of uses, is simply making it from prohibited to a conditional use for warehouses in the A20 zone. You can see that it's not allowed in any of the other zones except commercial, light industrial. It's commercial as a conditional use, and that would treat that as like A20, and then it's permitted in the industrial, light industrial, and the intensive agricultural zones. So we felt like that just provides an opportunity. We've had a couple of requests for something similar to that, and we you know, sometimes we try to call it something else because it's small, because it's allowed in A20. One example is we have a use called a contractor shop office. And it really was a warehouse, but, you know, because they just have stuff delivered there and then they distribute it. And they have a couple of employees that come there, and so rather than trying to fudge those and make them fit somewhere else, this fits the definition precisely. And we're not too worried about this becoming so large like a distribution center, because we also have a use called distribution center that is only allowed in the industrial and light industrial zones. And so that's still prohibited in the A20 zone, and so it's not going to be a big, you know, distribution center in A20.
Yeah.
Just smaller warehouses that would be allowed.
Okay.
Any questions about any of those changes?
Oh, sound like good changes that we needed.
It was recommended by the Planning Commission to approve those, and so we do need a public hearing on those. I didn't, I thought I had that on here. I don't see it, but we'll use this one.
Okay. Chair opens the public hearing on agenda number 4. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Okay,
So should we get
take action.
an action?
I'd move for approval of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment to ordinance 2022-5, Iron County Code Section 17.16.030, Table of Uses 17.16.040, and the Table of Site Development Standards 17.36.020. General requirements, warehouses, A20 uses with smaller parcels, as presented by Reed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes. We'll go to agenda number 5, public hearing, discussion and possible approval of proposed ordinance amendment, ordinance 2022-6, modifying sections. We'll let Reed explain that.
Okay. Thank you. This is an attempt to, again, help people become aware of some of the changes that have been made. I have here just a letter that from the state engineer dated January 11th, 2021, notice of final adoption of the Cedar City Groundwater Management Plan. When that was adopted, it laid out a distribution of anticipated dates, target dates for regulation on water rights in the Cedar Valley. And you can see here that by 2080, everything will be regulated through July 25th, 1934. What that means is that if someone has a priority water right junior to 1934, by 2080, it is at risk of being cut off and or suspended until such time as something else changes and there's enough water. So what has happened as a result of this is Cedar City, Enoch, Parowan, well, Parowan for a different water basin, but Cedar City and Enoch in the Cedar Valley basins Basin has regulated the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District all established a priority date of 1934 or 1935 to say when someone develops in the city, they have to bring water, or we have to acquire water as subject to this priority date. It has to be at least that old or older in order to develop. And so as we talked about that in the unincorporated area and what that meant to us, and new subdivisions and even wells on individual systems, whether or not it would be appropriate to establish a priority date so that people are at least aware that when they're drilling, they are subject to using a water right that could be suspended in 15 years. Because the first date, and that's the one that we're most concerned about, will cut water down to 1957, and that'll occur in 13 more years, almost 12 years now. And so what we wanted to do is figure out what an appropriate regulation would be that would help people become aware of that concern and that be recorded. So this is, as awkward as this language reads, it's an attempt to put them on notice. So we're essentially saying that any water right that's required in these sections or this section, and in the ordinance it specifies in each of those sections that it will have similar language to this, that the water right shall be of a priority that ensures it or them not to be in jeopardy or of suspension or termination according to the applicable Utah Division of Water Rights State Engineers Groundwater Management Plan. Now, that language, of course, will bridge the gap between the different plans and the different water basins across the county, because we don't have the luxury of just dealing with one water basin in Iron County. And so we have a groundwater management plan out in the desert, the Escalante Desert, Burrell, Newcastle area. We have a different water management plan in Cedar Valley. We have a different groundwater management plan that's in process of being adopted in Parowan Valley. And so and then we have other areas that don't have a water management plan currently. And so the attempt here is to just put them on notice that their water right has to be good for at least 50 years from the date of the issuance of the building permit, so that it's not at risk of being turned off or suspended or at loss during a useful life of a new residence. A lot felt like we should go older than that. Some felt less, but the Planning Commission felt comfortable in recommending 50 years. Felt like that was a reasonable time frame at which you at least ought to have water, because without water on a house, your house isn't really worth anything. And so that seemed like a reasonable thing. The second component of this is that there would be a recorded document that they recognize that they simply state that it states the date of the water right, the scheduled date for possible suspension or termination, and that the property owner acknowledges the state engineer's intent to regulate said water right based on priority dates regardless of use. So that's the language. It doesn't read as smoothly as we like, but writing language sometimes, like regulatory language, is a little bit awkward, but we feel like it at least explains the intent of what we're trying to do. So that's what this ordinance is about.
Okay. Chair opens the public hearing on agenda number 5. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Any questions?
Reed, I have a question. So you came up with 50 years. I mean, and that's great for the person that builds, but is that going to be noted on the deed so that somebody purchasing that has?
Well, that's this requirement right here, the one that see, a recorded document must accompany the evidence of the water right that states the date of the water right, the scheduled date of possible suspension, and that the owner acknowledges the engineer's intent to cut it off. So that will be recorded with the property. So the next person who buys it will be made aware of that.
Sometimes those things get overlooked.
Exactly.
Really easy.
That's the purpose
really
of recording it with the property, so that it should appear on the title policy. It should be there for them to be aware.
So, Reed, what triggers that recording to happen?
A building permit.
every time.
Any building permit or subdivision, we would do it through a subdivision. And that's why we say also the requirement acknowledgement may be included on the final subdivision plat, but must be recorded for the entire subdivision property as a separate document after the final plat is recorded. So that title companies don't look at the original plat. And if it's there, they're not going to see that requirement. But now it's recorded on all of the property for that
They'll hit each
subdivision.
lot.
Or each lot. Yep. And that's what the purpose of that. So at time of subdivision, it'll be recorded on all the property in the subdivision, and at the time of a building permit, if it's not in that subdivision, it'll be recorded at that point.
I think it's really important that we're doing this. In 50 years, maybe we'll have a pipeline from Pine Valley, I hope, or something.
Yeah, if in
Different
20 or
and-
30 years this doesn't make sense anymore based on what's changed, it's simple to fix.
Yeah, yep. But I think it's really important. I know there's several lots like out in the Quichapa area. There's a beautiful guy that has a really nice home right next to Quichapa there up on the bench, and his is the first cut on his water. And he's just
1963
sick.
water, I
Yep,
think. Yeah.
Yep.
There's several of those.
I think it's important. Yep. Thank you for doing that.
So I have just, the different water basins here and shows where their priority dates are. And I don't know if anybody, I just had those in case there were questions.
You had to do a lot more than what just like Cedar City did because we have so many basins to have
we
to
have.
look at.
And that's why we're just doing the 50 years instead of establishing a date, because each water basin has a
Right.
different date.
Parowan's just starting their groundwater management
Yeah.
plan, and it could.
And then we have ones that don't have dates,
Yeah.
and they will at some point as the engineer develops those groundwater management plans.
Good.
Good job. I
This
think.
was also recommended by the Planning Commission for approval.
Can we have a motion on agenda number 5?
I'll move to approve the proposed ordinance amendment, ordinance 2022-6, modifying sections 15.06.030, water, sewage, road, and geologic conditions requirements, 16.20.060, evidence of availability of necessary services, and 16.12.030, evidence of availability of necessary services and providing for an effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll go on to 6. Discussion and possible approval of the Peakview Ranchette subdivision, final plat, 13 lots, approximately 81.83, 83 acres, located in Iron County. Reed.
You have seen the preliminary plat. We rezoned this property from A20 to R2. We have now had the construction drawings approved, have the bond in place for the improvements, and just ready for final plat approval. So you'll recall that this property is located just off on the west side of Lund Highway, just north of the Mid-Valley Road, and we have preserved this 100-foot corridor along the back of this property for the belt route. And so now we have from here preserved through to here. I will mention that we need to had a call from the developer here. We still haven't acquired that lot, that 100-foot here. We need to get on that and get that done. And they're concerned about how long that's dragging on. We need to really get these taken care of right away so that we can acquire them. Because we've required them as
To have them.
as a condition of the subdivision. And it
They've
made the
sold all of the ones.
subdivision a lot more
Yeah,
complicated.
Carrie's sold all of those. So
Yeah, these have
that's
all
the only
been
one
sold,
left.
and now and we subdivided on this side, and a number of those have been sold, and so it is, it's happening there.
It's time.
It's going to necessitate, and we've been talking about it as staff, and I won't commit too much at this point, but because of the nature of our requiring this 100-foot corridor along here, these properties were zoned R2 instead of R5. They're not on sewer, and they're still are on septic. They have to have at least 5 acres. And it made it a lot more complicated to develop those because they didn't have access off of this road, which would have been easy to split the properties down the middle and have 5-acre lots coming off of each side. And it would have worked. R5 takes 300 feet of frontage. And so when we said you can't come off of the belt route side and have access, it left them only to be able to access off of Lund Highway. And they said, well, when we do 300 foot of frontage, they're like 10-acre lots, and we can't, it just doesn't work financially to do that. And so we said we would agree, because it's adjacent to R2, that they could do 2-acre R2, which only has a 200-foot frontage requirement instead of 300 feet. But what that's done is it's generated a lot of confusion in terms of how the properties are marketed as animal agricultural properties. And we have a prohibition in the ordinance that in subdivisions in the R2, R1, and R1/2 zones, you can't have animals on the property until you live there. Because we've said, which made a lot of sense, and it's worked really well in the future, because somebody go into an R1/2 subdivision and they just put the horses there and they don't live there, and the neighbors are contending with that all the time. And so it's been a good ordinance, and it's worked really well. But now we have these 5-acre lots that people assume are agriculture, and they're putting animals on without building on them, and it's an enforcement issue. And we've said, well, R5 doesn't require somebody to be there. We're looking at an option to tweak that language to say in R2, if they have at least 5 acres, then they could be treated as though they were R5 and not require someone to be on the residence, have a residence there at the time. Or maybe at least that they could build other buildings, because they can't build a barn or corral or anything there if it's. So we're talking among staff, and we'll talk with the Planning Commission to see whether that's something that we'd, because of all of those lots that we've created there now under this scenario.
Yeah.
There's 12 in this subdivision, there was 6 in the other subdivision, there's 7 across the street, and then we did that same thing over here on all of these lots right here that you can see. And they're all zoned R2 as well because of the frontage. And so there's another 13 over there that are in a similar situation. They have 200 foot of frontage, but they're 5-acre lots. And so that's something that we want to try to work with people on and recognize, and would still have provisions of the ordinance that when it becomes a nuisance, if they're not living there, then it can still be taken care of. And so we'll try to work with the people on that and accommodate that, because in some degree we created some of that issue by not letting them be R5 or forcing them to be R2 because of the width of the lot and because of our requirement for the road. So I think we need to work with them on that aspect and try to resolve that issue.
So with the corridor preservation fund that we have, is that you that goes ahead and
yeah, between Rich and I,
for those
we can apply for that, and we still have to make an application to the fund just like anyone else, but we just
and we
just
pay
one
into
of the
that. The
other
county
things
pays
that-
into that
Yeah.
yearly. Yeah,
Well, the county doesn't. There's off of each license plate.
license plate.
It's funded through
That's where
license
that-
plate. $10 fee on every license registration is where the fund comes from. But it's
Okay.
there for the acquisition of right-of-way. It's just, those are one of those things we just don't get to, and it just.
You got so
needs to be
much
done,
on your
so
plate.
it's
Yeah,
just
I get it.
getting to it. Yeah. So anyway, that's what that's all about. So the recommendation by staff is to go ahead and approve this. It doesn't go to Planning Commission, because all we're doing is ensure compliance with the bonding and the construction drawing approval. And the Planning Commission already approved, and you already approved a preliminary plat. This is just now coming back as a final plat.
Okay.
And now they can go ahead and make the improvements and sell the lots.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Yeah, move for approval of the Peakview Ranchette subdivision final plat, 13 lots, approximately 81.83 acres, located within the legal description as provided in the agenda here in Iron County.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to 7. Discussion and possible approval of the Cascade Spring Phase 2 pre-annexation agreement with Cedar City, Iron County, and Cascade Development Holding is that supposed to be LLC or just LC? Oh, okay. Located in the vicinity of 2530 North 300 West, Cedar City, Utah. Annexation, leaving an island and peninsula, or peninsula.
Yeah. This is an opportunity to try to work with someone who is challenged with getting it annexed in a timely manner so that they can still do the improvement. We've done this a couple of times. We did this recently with Condor Development, which was in Cedar City, and they're in the process of annexing, but it still hasn't annexed. And that was off of
Airport
Road. They're just behind on the west side. We also did a similar thing with IFA for their fertilizer plant out there behind, just a little further in that area. And it's simply a pre-annexation agreement that allows the property to go forward with development in the city, get the city water, hook up, do the city development standards, and operate as though they were annexed, but that we agree to have allow the city to do the inspections and to do the construction drawing approval and everything on the improvements while they go through the annexation process. That's essentially what this does. In this particular case, it also agrees to the annexation. This point that the county agrees that because it leaves an island and is in an island, that it's an annexation that needs the county's approval for the annexation. So this agreement specifies that we agree to the annexation and we agree to allowing them to start developing in the city without finishing the annexation yet. This agreement has a trigger in it that the annexation has to have begun and that all of their process started within 6 months, which the other one didn't, and it's lagging a little bit. They weren't, once they got building, they just didn't worry about the annexation process as much. So this one we've learned and now trigger that. So this is where the property, let me go to a site plan. This is the property right here. This 9 acre, a little over 9 acres right here where the star is. This is Cascade Springs subdivision phase 1. They want to do phase 2, which is up this side and around here. But in order to do that development, they need a second access because the number of units that are here off of this dead end street. And they can't get through to tie it in here. And so the city is requiring that they have a road that comes out across and down through here so that they have a second access into the property. And the problem is that this property, even though it's not really developing right now in the city, they need to have that road built to city standard, and it has to be in the city. So that's why the annexation is occurring, even though they're not really ready to develop it. Part of the challenge is that they also own a little sliver of property here and this property and this little sliver of property, which will have a sewer line going down through it. So they own this property, so they're running the sewer down through here. And we said, well, why don't we annex this piece and this at the same time? And they said, well, because this guy doesn't want to annex. And this is a challenge we've had all along. You know, it's a dilemma that we face. We have previously taken the attitude that if it's in a peninsula or an island and we can get it annexed, we chip away and get what we can. But at some point, you have to realize we can't continue to just take it little one parcel at a time, or we'll lose our leverage to be able to finish the island. Because you can't force a property to annex unless it's a minority amount of the property, so less than 50% of the acreage, and a third of the land value. So if you don't have enough value and acreage, you'll never be able to force the rest of it in. And so you've got a couple of homes down here on this side. These homes right here, You still have acreage with this and this in the future to force some of this other in, but then you don't have any value. Problem is these lots don't have any value, don't have any improvements on them. So the value is all in these lots. So you ask yourself the question, well, at what point do we get those annexed? How does that ever annex? Because the city, as you can see, it's an island. The city is annexed all around it. And now if we annex this little piece, it takes that much more away from having enough to force anything else in. And so, you know, you want to get it in while you can, and if somebody's interested in developing, then you say yes. But at what point do you say not until we get the rest?
Hasn't Cedar City got an ordinance where they won't provide water outside city limits?
These people are already on city water that are in the county that they've had in the past that they were kind of loose with, and they
About 40 years, I
some of
think.
them.
Long time.
You know, some of them are connected to water, some of them have their own wells, some of them are connected to sewer, some of them have septic. And at some point, the city could say, yes, we're not going to provide any more, but they've been doing it for a long time. It's pretty hard for them to say, can't do it
And a
anymore.
grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Or to stop.
And it comes as we're left with pretty loosey-goosey, we'll do it if you don't want
It
to.
makes it really hard for our
People that
services.
didn't want to annex, they didn't force. Nobody said
Yeah.
you have to annex to get water. You just, okay, we'll connect you. So that's what we're left with. Planning Commission said, well, in this case, we're probably go ahead and do this annexation without requiring anything else, but I don't know how much more of that we can do. So that's where we're at. This agreement agrees to the annexation as well as the provisions of them being able to develop in the
Did
county.
the landowner reach out to any of those homeowners?
Yes,
And no one was interested?
no one's interested.
I would be
We did
surprised.
require that at least. You know, in our checklist, when we go through this annexation, we have this checklist now that we use for all annexations, and it essentially addresses these issues. These are the things that we're concerned with being islands or peninsulas, is whether it's eligible to annex, what the road and access conditions are, who or and where services currently be provided, and whether that would change in the future. What are the impacts to the remaining properties, the land use compatibility for what's being left versus what's being done, any pre-annexation agreement like we're doing currently, and what the municipality's rules are that may be hindering the ability to annex, which part of the reason that the property owner to the north didn't want to annex is because he's still farming and he didn't want to have to give his water up. Well, the city now has changed that. It used to be a tax issue and it used to be a water issue, but because of the municipal unincorporated area services district, their taxes in the unincorporated area are very similar to the city. And the fact that now Cedar City doesn't require you to bring water when you annex. They only require water now at development, which we got them to change because of the problems that we were showing them it creates. Then they've changed that rule now within the last year. Now they don't require water at annexation, but the guy, has those feelings over the years where this has been a problem, and he's just not going to annex. Doesn't have any interest to. And we don't have enough property in this annexation to force the rest of that, and then that even makes it harder to force anything else. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
This does not require a public hearing. This is just action on approval of this agreement, which then also agrees to approve the annexation.
And again, the planning commission just said we'll get what we can in this case. Is that correct?
They
That's correct.
approved it.
They recommended going ahead with this agreement and annex this property.
And are we fairly confident that Cedar City will approve
Yes.
their side?
They've already run this agreement past the city, and the city's approved it, and the
Okay.
developers already signed it, so it's just on us.
Perfect.
Is there something that you want to say, Ken? Sheriff?
We hate islands.
Could you
Come
come up
up.
to the microphone, Sheriff? Sorry.
Islands create a lot of confusion for law enforcement who has jurisdiction and who's responding to the calls. It causes a lot of issues with dispatch. Islands just
They're hard.
Are hard. It's
They
just
are.
not a good idea for us. So
But it's already an island. We're just tweaking it, right?
yeah,
Carving away. at it.
Carving away at it.
in a way at it.
But it's
But you know, that's always been a problem here in Iron County and Cedar City. As long as I've been in law enforcement here, is that if we're constantly trying to figure out who has jurisdiction over this piece of property because of these types of things, have just kind of
It is a problem.
taken a little piece at a time.
Our other services too. I mean, you put your snow blade down, then you bring it up. The roads is just,
Yeah, it just
Awful.
causes a lot of confusion for
Yep.
everybody involved.
yep.
So.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll call for a motion, huh?
I'll move for approval of the Cascade Springs Phase 2 pre-annexation agreement with Cedar City, Iron County, and Cascade Development Holdings, LC, located in the vicinity of 2530 North, 300 West, Cedar City, Utah. And this is an annexation leaving an island or peninsula.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 8, discussion and possible approval of partial amended Far West subdivision, Lot 1, Block 5, for William Home, located in Cedar City. Read.
Amended plats are required approval of the county commission without going to the planning commission, just because they are, and don't require a public hearing if the owner of the property, all of the owners are signing the application. And that's the case we have here. There's some question, and we always debate over whether or not an easement on a property, public easements are required to be noticed 3 weeks in the paper. One part of the code says 3 weeks, another part says 4 weeks. But if it's a public right-of-way or a public easement, then we have always debated on to what extent we have to advertise. These guys were in a hurry. We agreed that it was not a public easement. This is located out the Far West subdivision, which is just out west of the valley through the gap before you get to the Comstock Road. Got a couple of photographs that kind of show the area. You can see the culvert here in the road, with a road showing the road going into the property, and these drainages. When the subdivision was approved, I'll come back to the picture. This is the original subdivision plat. You can see here that these easements were provided on the property to accommodate those drainages. The problem is that they didn't put them where the drainages are. They just made the easement, but that's not where the drainages are. So now the property owner wants to come back and say this is where the actual draw and the drainage is. I want to amend the plat to move these easements to where the drainage actually is. So this is Highway 56. There is a culvert here that takes drainage and a culvert here that takes drainage. This property drains down this direction, and so it is accommodating from the other area, but we're taking the channel where the water is currently in the channel and fixing the map to the actual land, which is
That makes sense.
what we want to do. So we felt like we weren't vacating any easements. We're simply moving them. They're still there. They still accommodate the purpose, and therefore we didn't feel that it was necessary to advertise for 4 weeks in the newspaper that nobody reads anyway. So the legal ads,
It's riveting.
we
the
need
legal ads.
something about it anyway. So that's what this is about.
Okay. Can I
Any
have a-
questions? Do you want to look at those? I kind of skipped over the photographs. You can see that those are pretty well established drainages. I mean, they are there, and they're very definitive as to where they're located, and so now they've been mapped according to where they actually are on the property.
Okay. I'll ask
right.
for a motion.
I'd move for approval of the partial amended Far West Subdivision Lot 1, Block 5 for William Home, located in Section 6, Township 37 South, range, as long as I'm started, I might as well finish. Range 13 West, Salt Lake, and Basin Meridian, Iron County, Utah. And it's APN parcel E-685-5-1.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners. That,
Yeah, that was a bunch, Reed.
yeah, it
Take a
builds up
day
sometimes.
off and
Good job, Reed. Thank you.
Do you have a minute that we can sign these?
yeah. Do you want to hurry and do that?
Donna, I do need yours and Sam's as well.
While they're finishing those up, we will go to public comments. 3-minute public comments per speaker. Should not repeat others' comments. Only for items not on the agenda. No items related to Commission's role of appeals board, and comments should be directed to the Commission. No attacks on others' character. Any public comment? I guess not. Seeing none, we'll go on to 10. Request a donation for the Senior Companion and Foster Grandparent Program. Joni Lyman, come on up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a great program, I have to say. They helped my mom for a little while.
Thank you.
So, this is just a little reminder of what our programs are about. We have 2 programs for lower income seniors to actually earn a little money. And what's changed since I've talked to you last is they raised it to $3.15 that we pay them. I know, 15-cent raise. So we also upped their mileage reimbursement from 35 cents a mile to 45 cents a mile. I know our generosity abounds. But so our programs are doing well, like senior companions go to the homes of other seniors and take them shopping and to doctor's appointments. And foster grandparents go to the schools and help the kids with their reading. And all of them work at least 15 hours a week. The average is usually about 20 to 22 hours a week. And my average volunteer is 72 years old. They have to be over 55. I don't have very many 55-year-olds because they're all still working. But they need to be a little lower income. And we're doing pretty good. I think I've told you before, but Iron County is really good at, Washington County has a lot more people, but Iron County, it seems like it's easier to recruit volunteers. And I have some longevity volunteers in Iron County. Here in Parowan, we've got Norma Baker, and she's at 23 years. So
Wow.
we're
Amazing.
really good, yeah. So we're over the pandemic, so we're recruiting and trying to get more and more, but we're we're getting back our numbers, so we're doing pretty good. So we're just asking for a little donation for where we serve, because we have to have match money for our grant. Our grant is a federal grant, so we have to have a little match money, and this is part of where I get it, asking cities and counties where I have, where we serve. So
Is this what we did?
this is what you've done the last few years, was 1,000. So just if you want to do that, if you want to do less, more, I just put that on there for what you've done in the past. Any questions? I think you guys all know
Oh yeah, we know.
me, know my
Yes.
program. So
Every year. Yep. What do you guys think? Want to
good.
do a?
Is this something that we could work into the budget process
Just a line item.
every year, a line item, so we
I
wouldn't
don't
have
know
to
why we couldn't.
wouldn't
do
have
that.
to come back every year?
that would be very helpful. I mean, I love
Dan's
coming
not
here. and
here,
it's
but-
Well, we like to hear
interesting.
from you, but we have several others and we've kind of worked them in as a line item,
Didn't have to come.
so you
back
didn't have to
every year.
come
Yeah.
back every year.
Which we
It's-
love to see you. Don't
Thank
get
you.
us wrong.
Thank you. I love to come, and it's interesting to see how things work. But yeah,
I think all you'd really have to do is just bring it up during your budget discussions, and just make sure that that gets
The line item.
incorporated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we have budget hearing. I mean, we start in just a couple of weeks,
okay.
but I
I'm good. I'm good with that too.
Me too. Yeah. I think
Do you want
that's
me
a
to follow
great
up with
idea.
Dan on that?
Actually.
I would. Yeah, would you follow up with Dan on that? So just shoot him an email or whatever, so we make sure it gets done, and then
Yeah. Then that's
is 1,000 enough?
well,
I know that's a loaded question.
I mean, we could use more, especially with the gas mileage. We're doing the 45 cents, and it's a fine line to walk. So my grant gives me this much money, and if I go under, they're mad at me. But if I go over, then 5 counties going, whoa, because they have to
can't do
put
that.
in the money.
Yeah.
So whatever match money I have gives me the wiggle room to, give my volunteers what they need, and so if
What
you
if
have
we-
more money somewhere that you
Well, what if we did another 300 for inflation? Maybe add a little bit more to
That would be great.
help you. Would 5 County be
would
good
that
with that?
be okay? I mean, will that help you,
Oh yeah.
but not hinder you?
Oh no, the match money doesn't hinder me. It's the number of volunteers I have. So yeah, I can get more match money. I mean, I love more match money. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Yeah.
Well, I'll make that motion that we do up it from 1,000 to 1,300 this year.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yep.
So do I need to do anything for the budget
No.
hearing or
Nope.
anything?
Nope.
No.
Great.
I think when he sends it out, he'll just send you that much,
Yeah.
since we made a motion of that.
Yeah, that's an action they took, and then we'll follow up with the county auditor to
Well,
try and get
thank
that as
you.
a regular budget item.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this'll take care of it this year, and then every year moving forward, you should
Okay.
just get a check.
All right. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Go to 11, requesting a donation of a 1972 Dodge pickup to the family of Briner Wood, which is my family. The funding fire chief of Burrell, Escalante Valley Fire Department. And Ryan Riddle will talk to us about that. And I know that there's a sentimental reason here, isn't there?
Yeah, this was very interesting. So when we started the process of eliminating the vehicles that are no longer being used in the Burrell and Newcastle Fire Department, I was shocked at how many vehicles were actually out there. And it took some time to find them.
They were all over the county.
They were in some interesting places. We did locate this vehicle on a piece of private property that had basically been overtaken by weeds. I mean, it was hard to even see it initially. It does not run. It's in very, very, very poor condition. The interior is shot. The exterior is shot. Who knows if there was some work done to it, whether it would even run. But we went through the process, as we did with all the rest of those vehicles, of getting them into a collection point where we could put them up for auction. And during this process, I was made aware of this particular vehicle and this particular circumstance where the family has some ability to restore it, and personally ask if they could acquire that piece of equipment or that vehicle for the purpose of restoring it back to its original state as a small fire truck that was used in the Burl. Well, actually, back then it was the Escalante Fire Department. So pretty interesting history, and these are some grandkids that are wanting to do the work on this, and so just working with the family, they've asked if we could donate that to us. I've had the discussion with Wade Adams over in Fleet, and he's kind of scratching his head going, we're not really sure what to do with it either, because there really isn't any value in it. And obviously there's no value to the county in trying to repair it back to operating status. So personally, I think that this is kind of a neat opportunity for us to number one, get it off of our costs, our insurance and that sort of thing, and number two, give it back to somebody that may have some sentimental use out of it. So
Okay, I'd call for a motion.
I'd move to donate the 1972 Dodge pickup to the family of Briner Wood, who was the founding fire chief of Escalante Valley Fire Department.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
thank you. I'll work with
Good.
the family to get it into their care.
Care. Okay. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Discussion and possible approval of an interlocal indemnification encroachment agreement between Central Iron County Water Conservancy District and Iron County. Rich Wilson.
So after discussions with the Water Conservancy District and also with Cedar City and Enoch, we require encroachment permits in order to work in the county right-of-ways or across county property, which is a good thing. It is a twofold operation in getting that encroachment permit. It allows us to be aware of what's being done. It allows us to make sure that the county's interests are maintained, that the encroachment does not get left as an open trench or other obstacle, whether that be a pile of dirt or whatever. And so we've always bonded that so that we can go back if some developer or some entity does not put the county's right-of-way back into its original state. But after watching this happen for the last year and a half, we require a bond for the purpose of that, so that we can pay our staff that they're on the hook to do it, or we will do it, and we aren't putting the citizens of the county in a financial obligation. But when it comes to municipalities and municipality-like associations or entities like the Water Conservancy, they don't go away. They don't pack up, go bankrupt, head out of town, or leave us. And so I felt in good faith to work with these entities, it would make sense that we just have an interlocal agreement that says they'll put it back or we'll call them back to do it. And we won't be asking for them to bond anything for those repairs. They won't have to tie up money. We won't go through the process of having them give us money that we're going to give them back anyway, which is what we do now. I still would require that they get an encroachment permit so that they're still telling us that they're doing it, as well as the encroachment permit also serves as a legal document of approval for easement. In other words, if they put in a water line, a gas line, any of the utilities putting in lines, and they're not a part of this. No utility will be part of this because utilities do change names. They do get sold. They do stop existing. But the cities, towns, and the water district anytime soon is not going away. If the water district went away, it would be taken over by another governmental-led entity. It wouldn't simply become a private entity. So what this is, so in essence, this is an agreement between us and the Water Conservancy District. ENIC has already sent me a similar document, of which I had Sam review. And what it does is it protects us as the county from disruption and making sure repairs are done. But at the same time, it gets them out of the bonding business with us and gets us out of holding monies just to be returned later. So I felt, I like the relationship that the county has with the Water Conservancy, with the city of ENIC, with the city of Cedar City, and obviously with Parowan and Paraguna and Canaryville and the rest. They just haven't asked for these yet. But this is a conceptual thing. We have these proposals. They've been looked at by our legal staff, and I don't see a problem with this. So I'm proposing and asking that the commission approve that that I be allowed to enter into these agreements with the municipal-like entities in the county.
Okay. Chair will ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve interlocal indemnification encroachment agreement between Central Iron County Water Conservancy District and Iron County as presented by Rich Wilson.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Can we amend that
Yes.
Oh,
so that it doesn't just become the Water Conservancy, but
Or their successors.
well,
or
no,
their
all municipal-like organizations, such as the cities.
So, Rich, the concern I have is we actually have a specific agreement for the Water Conservancy District here. I almost wonder if we want to take those one at a time, or do you want to try and make it more
Talk to
blanket?
them.
And wouldn't it have to be noticed that way on the agenda?
Yeah.
Change it?
Yeah. Okay.
Rob did that one. I think I ran that by you too, Sam.
I think as a matter of procedure, we should probably have each of those contemplated by the commissioners
That's
separately.
separately. Yeah.
So the next
and
time,
the one we have on the agenda is with the Water Conservancy District. Did Rob and ENIC, did they draft this, or is this
they looked at the Water Conservancies and they just changed the names.
okay?
So it's
And
I
so they
think it's
haven't
pretty
actually
identical.
approved this one yet.
And we did not add that to the list. So I
Okay.
was looking for a generic, like I said.
I like it. Yeah.
But we can do them one at a time.
Or we could-
because we have not received a request from Cedar, though I made them aware.
Once.
Yeah.
You might talk to the other Parowan and Paraguna and put them all on one.
We could do one
We could do
combined.
one
Yeah, they don't
combined.
have to be separate documents. But I think it is good to kind of memorialize with everyone's wet signature and the bodies approving. But they don't have to be separate documents, yeah.
Okay.
However
one
you
of the
wanna do
challenges
that.
will be if we do them all, we want all their signatures on them. In other words, we want.
Well, and that's the hard part about it. It may be,
and we have some
it may be
people who are.
actually all right to do them separately.
And we, if we've
I mean,
got,
do 'em
it's
separately.
a Word document, I can hit print more than once.
I can too.
Easily.
And we can have multiple. And okay, so
Yeah.
when I come back, we'll
Some of the others
we'll have
do
ENIC
ENIC
on there now. Well, not ENIC yet because it wasn't warned, but for the next commission meeting, I'll have ENIC and I'll reach out again to Cedar City. I'll reach out to Canaryville.
As you can get them,
Parowan,
we'll
and-
get them
and
on
if
the
we can
agenda.
get this document with each one of them having their own agreement,
Yeah.
it'll be very similar or identical, hopefully, because what it does is it basically says what I said before.
Yeah.
It says you may do this with an application. You'll
And
put it
not have
back.
to
If
bond.
you don't, we'll be calling or we'll be billing your city council for doing it.
Like it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think it's a
So Paul made the motion.
So
yep.
So I'll second.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Okay. Approved. We'll go to 13, discussion and possible approval of ordinance 2022-7 and ordinance addressing public roads. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about that.
So we were talking this morning, this needs to be warned to the public. It won't come before the commission till the 26th. Because we didn't get it in the public notification, we would have had to gotten it in today. So we won't be able to get it in till this week as a public notice. And I've run it through the sheriff's department, run it through legal, run it through roads. It basically encapsulates what we want to be able to do, which is to notify people that we actually have an ordinance. We've been relying primarily on goodwill, and we've had the backing of the state law, but we haven't created an ordinance of our own. Along with this ordinance, I believe I sent all three of you a copy of it, and I sent one to you, right, Jonathan? Oh, it's right there. Thank you. So it defines what a road is, what a public road is, and then it goes on to explain that a citizen or a property owner does not have the right, though they may own the road, to block, hinder, sign, any of the things that would disallow the public's access to cross over that road. It doesn't grant the public rights to get out and get on the lands to the side. One of the things that happens, and I know I've discussed this before, is signage can be misleading. It might be posting their private property as no trespass, but I want to make sure that signage that says no trespassing is facing perpendicular to the road, not parallel. And we've also indicated setbacks from corners, because those can be confusing. As you turn down a road, you suddenly see a sign that appears to be saying the road is private. Another thing is we've added stipulation on how we will warn citizens that they've posted a road or interfered with a road, and that is first a written notice. Afterward, there is a possibility of a fine up to $300, and after that, we'll take further legal action if they still don't. One of the things that Ken wanted and I wanted was that we get notification to them that they must immediately open the road. There isn't a delayed factor that says, you've got 2 weeks to open a road. This is a public road. You can't just
Put a gate up and lock it.
Gate up, put a fence over it, any of those things. And I think this will help us to have I hate to use the word, but I can't think of any other, some teeth to encourage compliance. I never liked punitive things. I never have in my years as a regulator. I've always hoped to get people to come into compliance, and that's why I'd rather have a warning first before we go right to that. And I find that 90% of the people, when they know something, are very willing to come into compliance. They often were either not aware or didn't understand.
Oh.
There are a few that need a little more nudge. So I'm presenting that as a forewarning because we had hoped to put it on the agenda, but then we realized we hadn't put it out to public notice. So on the 26th, you will see it to be adopted. That's it.
Great.
Thank you. We'll bring it back on the 26th. Jennifer, personnel.
Good morning. I only have one today, so you got off
I know,
easy.
that's weird.
Julie Ellis was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and interview process to backfill the vacant part-time deputy auditor position effective today, 9/26/2022. And we are fortunate that she's here today. So we're going to embarrass her and have her stand up.
Yay.
Have her, so. Yep.
She's awesome. We're excited.
Nice.
Excited.
Very good. Yeah, we usually don't get to come here. I love it.
Yeah.
She's like 10 feet down the
That's
hall.
right. Makes it a little easier. Right.
I'd move for approval of new hire Julie Ellis as part-time deputy auditor to backfill a vacant position effective September 26, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Go to work. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on boards, or we still haven't
Not
done
today.
anything with the planning and zoning yet? I think other than that, we'll probably adjourn.
Great.